So, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us for this panel discussion on NFTs and mass market adoption. I'm Darren Smith, and I'm your moderator for this session. A little background on me. I spent most of my career in the video game industry, including 20 years at Nintendo, where I ended up as a director of Nintendo of America. And while I was there, I worked on developing games and game platforms from the Nintendo 64 to the Wii and DSi and 3DS, and also developed some online services for all the platforms and really many other things. I joined Epik in 2018 as a vice president of product to bring NFTs into games. And I should also mention that after joining Epik, I attended the first crypto game conference back in Kiev. And I have to say congratulations to Andriy for growing this event since then. And we at Epik are really honored to continue to be a part of it. So on our panel today, we have representatives from a cross-section of the NFT landscape, from games and metaverses to marketplaces and infrastructure. And I think it's quite fitting that we are moderating this panel because at Epik, we're a B2B company and pretty much work with all the companies involved with brands and gaming and crypto gaming and of course, NFTs. And so we aren't really competitors here, and we're really focused on helping grow the entire industry so everyone can win. So let me take a moment to let each of our panelists introduce themselves. Ari from Big Time Studios is going to be a little bit late, but let's get it started alphabetically. Ari would have been first, but Benny, now's your chance.
Hey everyone, really excited to be here. This is Benny here from Dapper Labs. Originally started on the founding team of CryptoKitties when it was a 10-person type of project, and that blew up, and that was extremely exciting. Still remember it as if it was yesterday that we launched CryptoKitties, and the whole NFT kind of exploded back in 2017, 2018. Since then, I've been working on a few blockchain experiences or digital collectibles. The one that I spend the most time on these days is NBA Top Shot. I lead one of the product teams there in charge of building almost everything that you see in Top Shot except for the marketplace. That's the second team that we have on Top Shot. So really excited to be here and happy to talk about products that have a ton of users and digital collectibles with sports licensing.
Great. Thanks, Benny. How about Dirk?
Yeah, hi, I'm Dirk. I'm co-founder of Upland. Upland, maybe some of you know, and some of you don't. It's a metaverse based on real-world addresses where people play, earn, and connect. So that means actually we're replicating the real world, so you can purchase properties which are based on those actual addresses. And we're about to reach 1 million NFTs we've sold as properties, so that's a big milestone for us. We're currently one of the largest applications, decentralized applications out there with real humans, I tend to say, with almost 40,000 daily active users. And we've been growing since then. Right now for the cities of San Francisco, Oakland, Chicago, New York, Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. So, and the way, and probably going to talk it right, really going for the mass adoption play here as well.
Oh, good idea. So, how about Jiri next?
Hi guys. Hi, my name is Jiri. I'm CEO of Tatum. Tatum is a blockchain infrastructure. We actually support over 25 blockchains right now, including Flow, by the way, from the Dev Labs, which is great. I have to recommend that one. Great job. And we are basically, infrastructure for developers. So we are powering almost, let's say, a couple of hundreds NFT projects, NFT marketplaces. We do quite scalable things. So our best customer is doing about over 20,000 operations per second. Well, you don't have to have that performance, but you can do actually quite nice things. We are quite focused on NFTs. Recently, we have released NFT based on ERC 1155, so you can have shares inside NFTs and all that. So we're trying to help developers to build, things as easy as possible and as fast as possible.
Great. Thanks, Jerry. Okay, Thomas.
Hey, everybody. Nice to be here. Thomas, Chief Product Officer at Yellowheart. Outside of my background, I delivered the first barcoded ticket to a mobile device back in 2003 or 4. But with Yellowheart, we are focusing on music and using NFTs in the kind of effect from artists to their fan base. We launched Kings of Leon's newest album as an NFT, which was received really well. Since then, we've launched XXXTentacion and Zoo. We did some events with him down at Live Rocks or Red Rocks in Colorado. And most recently, we're actually launching today Maroon 5's NFT collection. And really interesting component there is that they're launching a DAO for their fan base. They want to create a community inside of that. But we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Thanks for having me.
All right, great. Welcome, guys. So we're here to talk about the mass market adoption of NFTs and really where we are in achieving that and how to get there if we aren't already there. So I think the obvious first question is, are we there yet? And if not, why not? So let's start with Benny. What do you think?
Yeah, we are far away from that option. I mean, if you were to put together all of the collectors who own at least one NFT in this entire space, it might make up 1 million or 2 million. So, you know, I could speak towards like NBA Top Shot. Like the NBA is huge. It's one of the largest brands, and there are literally millions of fans around the world who watch the games and follow the teams and follow the players. So I could say that from our perspective, like we've only just begun and we're still in beta. So I think the day where, you know, Top Shot is fully integrated with broadcasting and people are watching the NBA games, and during the games, a moment is created and minted and people could buy it when they're watching from the stadium or watching from their TVs. Like we haven't even hit that masses yet, right? So I think we're very early on, and the whole sports vertical, there's going to be a lot of growth. We've been doing a lot of experiments that hopefully one day will bring on more, like hundreds of thousands or millions of fans.
Great. So Dirk, how about you? What do you think? Are we there?
Yeah, well, I agree completely with Benny. We're not there yet, right? I mean, we're really early days, you know, it's maybe 10 minutes past 12 for the first day or so, or 2nd of January in a year. I don't know how you say. But maybe what is really what mass adoption stands for. I Googled a little bit, right, where people were, you know, saying, what does it mean? And I heard, you know, some people were saying when you know, 10% of the total market, whatever that is, right, let's say the whole population is using it. And to say maybe you give, you know, one or two other, I think you see signs of mass adoption. You know, it's just arbitrary points I thought about, right? So first of all, you walk in through the subway maybe, and if you have a game, right, and you see someone playing your game you've never seen before, right? So, oh, okay, so it really seems like somewhere, right, so some arbitrary. And the next thing is, of course, since we are all really mobile focused, right, if one blockchain game or blockchain application, right, is somewhere in the top list of Apple or Google on those charts, I think there's still a way long to go. I don't know where, maybe then you can say where Dapper Labs they were on there actually, because they were so popular, you know, at that time. But I think that's one thing. Then the other thing is that you have maybe, I mean, the old argument, right? Your mother and your father are using it, and they said, "Hey, I bought this," right? And they even didn't know that they had this NFT in there, you know, that they did that. And then maybe there's a Super Bowl ad, right, with a blockchain company. But however, this produces a positive return on investment for the company who did the ad, right? It's not just, you know, that they want to be there and just advertise, right? They can say, hey, you know, because we did the ad, you know, we did X amount more revenues. These are just, you know, just some arbitrary examples.
So that evidence doesn't seem to be there yet. So if we see that, that's a good sign that we actually have mass adoption.
Exactly. Yeah, I see it. Part of everyday's life, right, at the end of the day, right, where people, you know, fire it up and do something. It's not just, you know, I go in there, buy something, and then, you know, I hodl, and then 2 months later I come back or whatever.
Okay. How about you, Jerry?
So I think, you know, I still agree with guys, of course. I have no other choice. It's true, of course. I would say that from our perspective, what we see, what our projects being built on us, and what we see is basically, in 6 months we will see a huge increase of ads, or interest in ads. I'm not saying NBA Top Shot maybe but we are seeing more and more, and also we see more and more interest from enterprises. So we are talking about games and about sports and all that, but there's a lot of use cases for technical stuff as well. So I think in the next 4 years we will see the huge interest.
I don't know, but for me it's hard to hear him.
Jerry, it's a little hard to hear. Can you get closer to your microphone, or?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sorry. Much better. We caught some of that, but it's.
Sorry. Okay.
Sounds like you're in agreement. We aren't there yet in 6 months. Time.
Yeah, I agree. And that based on our experience, what we see is being built on us. We actually see a lot of projects. Actually, some of them are huge ones, and also we see more and more interest from enterprises. If you are considering outside the gaming and outside the sports and all that, there are actually huge enterprises who are interested in blockchain space as well, and NFT space as well. So I think we are somewhere like, my best guess would be around like a few percent top. We still have 4 or 5 years, very good ones, before we get somewhere major.
Great. Thomas, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think we're definitely still early on. I think, as he was mentioning, it's kind of 6 months time frame where NFTs really crossed into the mainstream. But there's a learning curve, and so when we are launching these big campaigns and onboarding a tremendous amount of people to we're kind of on the front lines of seeing people's challenges with understanding the technology, understanding the multi-step process to participate. And so we're putting tools in place to kind of help ease that learning curve, but it's still a lot of education and awareness, and so we're seeing that even with a lot of the artists that we're working with, a lot of their messaging, and it's kind of very thorough in the instructional aspect of it. But I think it's really exciting as well. I think projects like NBA Top Shots, really kind of verified certain use cases, right? So there's a lot of stuff happening in the space right now that is kind of experimental, trying to kind of validate the products, trying to validate how they work, some of the business models around them. So I think we have a ways to go, but I think we're, it's kind of like the end of the beginning. I think we're both.
Excellent. Yeah, I think from Epic's standpoint, we totally agree. We aren't there yet. I think the numbers we need to hit is tens of millions of consumers participating. And thanks, Dirk and Benny, for sharing some stats that are great. So as evidence, we are not quite there yet. I think awareness among consumers is really growing, though. I mean, I think you've hit the pinnacle of awareness, or at least starting to, when Saturday Night Live creates a skit about NFTs and then makes an NFT of that. And Webster's just recently added NFT to the dictionary, and yes, they made an NFT of that too, in case you didn't know. So for us, we've seen awareness and acceptance grow among our business customers, and I think you've all acknowledged that too. So certainly within the last 6 months or so, this interest has grown significantly, and we've seen more doors open on our business side. But I think as we roll out our solutions for NFTs with our AAA game company customers, we're going to see consumer adoption just go up significantly. So we're really excited about that, and really excited about that for all of us. So let's talk about how we're going to grow from where we are right now. So when I was at Nintendo, we had this, when we were trying to get mass market adoption of the Wii, we had this strategy of audience expansion, bringing in those people who had never played video games, or even were just lapsed players. And we targeted them specifically with products and messaging, and we were really successful at it. Obviously, the end result was stunning, where we had Microsoft and Sony going after traditional gamers. Nintendo grew the entire market, not just for Nintendo. by taking this approach. And I remember meeting with partners outside of the game industry at the time, just thanking us for helping their families come together. Like, Grandpa played bowling with Wii Sports with the grandkids on something they never imagined could happen. Like, as you were mentioning, I think, Dirk, it's like playing with your mom's playing with an NFT. Maybe your mom played Wii bowling. I don't know. So what's your strategy to expand the audience of NFT users? We can just, we'll start with Dirk.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, I think when we go to mass market adoption, you have to use tools which they're used to, right? So it's going to be hard to tell the mass market you have to create a wallet and have to deal with a private key and passphrases. I think that's just a no-go. I mean, we all wish, and it's a big part of the decentralization and the way everything is set up, but you have to do some compromises. So I think what does work, it's email or maybe social sign-ins or something which, gets the masses on. I mean, that's pretty clear. The second thing is you have to actually start producing products, especially in the NFT space, which are more for the mass market, right? Because of course the people, and all the arts, which sold for millions of dollars, right, is nice for the media, right? Always to have, they create big headlines, but who can afford 69 million or what it was at the end, for it's just not happening, right? So what you need is actually other type of NFTs, and that's the true mass adoption. Right? It's something people can purchase for $2 or $5, and then trade it, and not really just in there for the speculation and hope they can sell it for 5,000 when they bought it for $5. They purchased for $5. They're proud to have it. They want to show it their friends, either in their wallets, and that's also, by the way, one thing which is completely missing. How can you show your stuff to others? How can you use it in a certain way? So I think that's important, that we really lower, and then because if that we get these kind of, let's say, more essential product in. And then the last thing is, in this context, I would like to mention is that it's also important to use a different language, right? So I think you cannot really say, well, it's about true ownership and so on. Most people say, well, what does this mean, right? And you have to, I think when you have to translate it, and we always say here at Upland, when you if you don't own it, you cannot sell it, right? So that's something along those lines, and that's actually the new paradigm, which we are all bringing into, the people are able to become part of the ecosystem, that they can sell their NFTs, they can sell their digital goods, and that's how you have to really use a lingo which the mass market understands.
Wow. Okay. So mass market approachable prices and changing the language are part of the strategy to achieve mass adoption. Great. Okay, Thomas, how about you? What's your strategy?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with the language aspect. Focus right now on really building the right kind of tools and infrastructure for onboarding new users. So a lot of the activations that we do are within traditional fan bases. And so we have a wallet, for instance, where you can log in with a username and password. And then it's all built on layer 2. So we've taken away the gas fees, so our wallet is gasless, our marketplace is gasless. So that helps reduce the kind of learning curve associated in the multi-step process. And then in terms of the point about the accessibility, when we're launching these campaigns with music artists, albums, we're selling them for like $50 a piece, and it comes with a vinyl, physical item as well as a digital. And there's really a long-term thinking. It's really about building a community of value, through these tokens that you can continuously engage with and deliver benefits, and really kind of focus attention in different ways. And so, for instance, with Kings of Leon, we launched the album and all the audio files. So we were actually able to go back to the label. They actually gave us high quality WAV files, and we had them like the next day available for like an upgrade. And so if you would have had like a single transaction where you bought an album, you wouldn't, that would be it. You'd be stuck with whatever you bought. So I think that's kind of an interesting aspect. And then when they just launched their tour a couple of weeks ago, and they offered specific discounted tickets, and they're having pre-events, like kind of pre-show festivities for token holders every Friday for the month of August. So they're really looking at this and trying to cultivate this community, which I think is important. So I think the price factor, in making it accessible, as well as thinking about this more in a longer-term strategy, is really beneficial. So And just to kind of comment on Maroon 5, so today they're launching a DAO along with their album NFT kind of compliments. And that's really focused on social and environmental impact. And so they have a particular asset that fans are buying, that their fan base is buying to participate in this community. And that all of the money collected from that, what they're calling a seed, is then put into this pool of resources that community is going to manage. And so I think that this is all kind of great in terms of making it accessible, encouraging adoption, conversation, and really kind of moving beyond the technology into what this can enable.
Excellent. How about Benny?
Yeah, I think that a lot of great points were brought up, like language, wallets and payments, gas fees, the price factor. I think for us, when we launched CryptoKitties, we experienced a ton of friction, with the mainstream rushing in and trying to buy a CryptoKitty. At one time, we had over 1 million site visits and only 1,000 were able to buy a CryptoKitty. So the conversion at that time in 2018 was very poor. Everyone had to set up MetaMask. We built pretty much like educational tutorial videos for MetaMask, explaining the blockchain and all of that. And we kind of learned a lot through that time period until 2020 when we started NBA Top Shot. So we made sure that in the language of NBA Top Shot, we never really talk about the blockchain. And in the realm of wallets and payments, we also have our own wallet, and we accept credit card, and you could also withdraw it via bank transfer or wire transfer. Gas fees, NBA Top Shot's built on Flow blockchain, so you don't have to worry about the gas fees. Price factor wise, this is a really important key piece, is the economy. And so we've made NBA Top Shot, we have these packs that you could buy. The most affordable one is $9 all the way up to $1,000 packs. But you could also go to the marketplace and buy a moment for $2. So we're not talking about crypto punks, where all of them are in the hundreds of thousands or millions, where normal people can't even purchase one, right? So all of those points are really, really great, and I also 100% agree. But there are some new things that when you reach a certain scale that we're starting to see from our perspective. One thing is this idea around digital waiting rooms or people waiting in line. Whenever we drop a pack, it's like a Supreme pack drop or like a sneaker drop. And we literally, at one time, we had about 350,000 people line up in order to get a pack. And that's I think 2 football stadiums full of audiences just waiting in line, wanting to buy a pack. And one thing that we kind of, one insight that popped in our head was like, well, there's 350,000 people waiting in line for 4 hours. They're kind of getting bored and a bit frustrated. And we decided to put a live stream right inside of the waiting room that connected to Twitch. And our Twitch stream now has tens of hundreds of thousands of viewers. And that's a really great area for entertainment. We've brought on NBA players to talk about their moments. We've brought on other influencers. And I think that is a kind of a new wave of introducing NBA fans to get closer with NBA players, because at the end of it, that is the core connection that we try to bring here, right? Is NFT from the players to the fans. The other thing that we've been working on is a mobile game called Hard Court. It will be free to play, and the hopes of this is that this will reach hundreds of millions of people who are NBA fans, and they could play the Hard Court, and there's not much information about it yet. We're still working on it, doing a lot of beta testing, but that idea is to open up the top funnel and engage the gamers. The third thing is we have a hashtag. It's called NBA Top Shot This, and it's been trending multiple times. We've had discussions with the NBA because at certain times the NBA Top Shot This hashtag is actually more popular than other hashtags that come from the NBA official channel. And that's creating a social experience tie-in with Twitter. We know that with sports, Twitter is a really important piece where fans kind of talk about what they just saw in the game and provide criticisms or hype up the crowd. And we're seeing a lot of people who see an amazing highlight and they're like, hey, NBA Top Shot this. And I know that our live ops teams, we take it into account that there's a lot of people who really want a moment, and we might make it happen. So that's like a really interesting time with social experience, and it will help with mass audience adoption as well.
Great, thanks, Benny. It's really interesting to hear. I think for us at Epik, we're a B2B company, so our strategy is really just empowering game companies to offer NFTs in their games. And we're working with companies of all sizes. Each of them has their own slice of potential NFT customers. But we're also leveraging our relationships with AAA game companies to really help them offer to their millions of users and help grow that market for all of us. We're also working to bridge the real world to the digital world. We have lots of relationships with brands and celebrities and influencers, and we're tapping into them and tapping into their fans to help bring new NFTs to their fans. All right, let's talk about some of the things that are holding back growth. I'm sure we've all found there's a certain resistance, even the concept of an NFT, right? Why should I pay for something I can see on the internet for free? Or even Benny's case, why should I watch a video from a basketball game? How is that even worth something? So I think to be truly mass market, do we need to have people come to accept that there is a value? Is this resistance holding the market back? And how do we overcome this? Can we start with Dirk?
How we come this there, right? I mean, that's of course a little bit the holy grail, right? How we get there? I think there's not, the solution how to do it. I think we have to go and start trying a lot of things. And let's say, of course, it depends always. When you're creating a game, you need to create something which is engaging. And we're always skeptical when you think about when NFTs just got drops, they get just dropped somewhere. Then people, okay, they have it, and the only thing they can do and engage with it is selling it on the marketplace or so, right? We at Upland think we need to pass content to NFTs or utility to it, so you can actually do something with it. So, for instance, what we're going to launch soon is what we call the NFT portal. People will be able to import NFTs from other platforms into Upland. And then let's say, since you're going to have a virtual house in Upland, you can put a drawing up there and maybe drag it and show it to other people. We import a virtual car. We're introducing cars in Upland. You can drive a virtual car, right? And these kind of things. So where people actually engage much more around the content, right? I think that's something. You have to do something people actually really like. I think that's the most important thing to my mind.
So the value comes from the utility of the items?
Yeah, I think the value comes from the utility, right? Because otherwise you always have those peaks, right? Everyone talks about something which is pretty hip, but then you cannot do anything with it. It dies off, right? And you have to create this engagement around the products, right? And to get people excited about it. So that's what we have. I think, to my mind, we have seen, especially in the past. And then, of course, you need to get some social proof. Social proof can come from celebrities, and what you just said when you work, with famous people, so they using it and so on. So that's also what's probably going to help for the mass adoption. But the social proof has to be credible also in a certain way, right? If you now just let's say a musical artist, you just drop something, right? And maybe you have really hardcore fans who buy everything you do, right? But then you have, of course, maybe, I don't know, whatever the number is, 5% of your fan group, but I think you have to try to get actually to the other 95%. And there you cannot just, drop something and, go and, it's you as a musical artist, you have then the responsibility to say, okay, what can you do with it? Why should you have it, right? I think that's what I'm also seeing a little bit, that people are just saying, oh, make quick money or so. It's a different thing now with NFTs. Yes, you sell it, but you have to give this additional value of engagement also with it. Otherwise, I think we're not overcoming the barrier, the hurdle that you just mentioned.
Thomas, what do you think about that? It seems like the things you're offering actually do come with some real world piece of it, whether they're Kings of Leon, you actually give the vinyl, or with a ticketing experience, obviously you're experiencing something in real life. What do you think about this, getting people to accept that there is some value to things that maybe don't have those real world things tied to them?
Yeah, so I think when you think of, in terms of digitally native NFT and utility, I think that it really does come down to like the value proposition of the asset. So on the art side, art is kind of, to each their own. It's perceived value, and supply and demand kind of mechanics. But I think in terms of like utility and the proposition of outside of just art, and what kind of experiences or benefits that asset can have. So I think in terms of digital native, and then as you mentioned on the side where the NFT bridges to the real world, there is more of a quantitative kind of approach to the asset and kind of what it's enabling for you. But I think there's also like opportunities where you see even digital experiences. For instance, Maroon 5 in their digital album artwork, it's actually going to be a listening party with the band as well. So still kind of remaining in the digital realm, but still having some kind of experience around it. So yeah, definitely to me, it's about utility.
Benny, I feel like I need to come to you because I called you out about the value of watching a basketball clip. So what do you think? Do we have to have people come to accept there's a value to become truly mass market?
I think that the way that we see it is very simple, right? There are fans and there are creators, and I think that relationship will never go away. I think that as people, we have musicians or artists or NBA players or celebrities that we follow because they give meaning to our lives, and the way that they lead their lives is so fascinating, and we just want to be closer to them because it's important to us. So at the end of the day, no matter if it's NFTs or Patreon or Instagram or Twitter, like all it is that the fans want to get closer with the people that they admire, that inspire them in their lives. And so NFTs is just another tool that a creator can use to get closer to the fans. Where I see things not happening, going very well is when the artist or the players or whomever, they themselves aren't ready to engage fans on a higher level, right? Like maybe they're really focused on certain things in their lives, or maybe their following is way too big and there's no way for them to kind of spend the time with the fans. And so, whether they're creating their first Twitter account, their first Twitch account, or creating new NFTs, what I see is that some of them just drop NFTs and then they kind of walk away, and they never really had the full intention of, hey, I do care about the fans, and hey, I do want to spend time with them. For those who do, from what I've seen, there are like maybe 10 or 20 NBA players who are really into Top Shot. They're in our Discord, and people, when they find them in our Discord, like LaMelo Ball, they're like, holy crap, LaMelo Ball is here. And when LaMelo Ball is talking about, hey guys, I'm trying to get this moment to complete this challenge, he's in it with everybody else. He's not in some special pedestal. He's equal with the fans. And I think that's like the most exciting part, at least from what I've seen with NBA Top Shot. And at the end of the day, that's value, right? The value is being alongside all of the NBA players that you really, really love. And be able to speak with them on Discord. So yeah, that's my perspective on value.
Yeah, so I think for Epik, like for me, like personally, my collection of digital items really represents my personal memories and experiences and achievements. And there are some, things that have utility, but there are these other things that, hey, that's just a representation of me. So, if I can show this off to everyone, I'm sharing my digital identity, and and like you said, showing off your status and membership in class. I think that's really important. Obviously, we have some of that in social media today with people expressing themselves through their own personal pictures or, their favorite memes. But these are, it's extended even more with digital items. And I think that's a value everyone can kind of recognize. And I think as we grow this and there's more examples of this, people will come to realize, oh, this has a value, not just maybe as a utility, of course, that's always going to be there, but the value in like allowing me to express myself. And I think soon these doubters about the value of that will become believers. So I think it's going to evolve over time. So I think we're at about 40 minutes into this, and I see we have a lot of questions coming in. We're going to take questions a little bit later, so please continue to add them there, and we'll grab them as soon as we can. So let's talk about scaling this on the back end. To support a mass market level of consumers, the blockchain infrastructure we have is going to have to support 100 million users. What does that mean for the current infrastructure we're working with today, and how do you see this scaling to support this volume? I'll give it to Jiri here because he's on the infrastructure side.
Okay, so thank you very much. Can you hear me properly this time?
Yes, hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So when it comes to scaling, I mean, we have kind of issues with Ethereum right now, right? So this is going to happen to, I guess, most of the blockchains because of their limitations in performance. We can see that Binance Smart Chain is actually getting into trouble as well sometimes. So what I think will happen, we will have to be able, first of all, when it comes to transactions, we have to have a little bit. We have to go with kind of next generation of blockchains. I'm not saying this because we have Benny here, but actually I think Flow is one of the good ones. I mean, there's always something to improve, but I think it's the right way how to do that. On the other hand, it's also important to say that most of the operations marketplaces and users are doing are not right. It's mostly reads, like most of that. So getting information about NFT, who is the owner, what is the history of the NFT, and all that. So and for this we are looking for major infrastructures, and this is, for example, what we are actually working on. So if you are thinking about, for example, in gaming, you have easily 10 million people online, and to be able to leverage NFT in-game assets, it requires a little bit more than Ethereum or some similar chains. You actually need much more. You need much higher power and performance. So we are looking basically for operations about basically millions of transactions and operations per second. Now we actually don't have a blockchain which would be able to do this. So either you will use some second layers and other tools, but then you are losing some benefits, or we will have to work on some next generation blockchains which should be able to power such a huge loads.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Benny. How about you?
Yeah.
How are we going to scale?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, like from Dapper Labs, and I've seen all the nuts and bolts for the Flow blockchain, so I'm obviously going to be a big supporter of it. I think when I came into this space with CryptoKitties built on Ethereum, like the energy, the community, and the tools were amazing. I think the idea around interoperability, where we could build CryptoKitties and people could pull your CryptoKitties into a DeFi app, and then you could pull it into a different type of app. That's so cool that it's like Lego blocks that you could build on top of each other. But as the Ethereum network kind of grown a lot, with a mixture of DeFi and NFTs and speculators and ICOs or whatever. It's really crowded the network, and we know from the gas fees, it's kind of the only way it could work is you have to sell NFTs that are thousands of dollars, so that the hundreds of dollars of fees make sense. You cannot sell a $9 NFT because the fees would be greater. So yeah, there's a lot of thoughts around the scaling issue, and I think for Flow, like that idea of having everything on one chain, on the main chain, there's no fragmentation to layer twos. Is the approach, is the future that we see. We see the Lego blocks, and that's one of the reasons why NBA Top Shot is doing so amazing with large amounts of users. And there's a lot more coming down the pipeline where I think we're going to push the boundaries of tens of millions of new consumers coming in, and not even knowing them creating a wallet and being able to own NFTs. So, I mean, the jury's still out there. I mean, layer twos have their benefits. The main concern there is like cross-chain communication. When you break everything into tiny pieces, it's going to be really hard to make sure that communication is very clear and easy. So that's going to be a big challenge. It's not impossible, but it will be a big challenge.
Great. Okay. Well, let's take a look at the future. So if we achieve a mass market penetration, what do you think the world's going to look like for consumers, and what's it going to look like for your company? Dirk, how about you?
Yeah, I think people will stop talking about NFTs, right? They will rather talk about products, or stuff they do, in the game, in the metaverse, or together with the artist and so on. So I think that's how I would clearly define it. In terms of, but also we have to remember also for NFTs, you need to have some kind of liquidity at the end of the day. When it's because when you take a fungible token, right? Of course, you have liquidity, then you go to a certain exchange where you get all the liquidity, right? And NFTs, when you think about it, has always this trading aspect, because when you own something, you won't be able to trade it. But then, there must be enough people actually doing it. There's no sense to have an NFT just completely in isolation, right? And then, because you have to define somehow, those products would have some kind of I call it maybe quasi fungibility in the NFTs. Explain in a second what that is. They will probably thrive and go to mass adoption, right? I'll give you one example is, so in Upland, we're selling addresses right now, and every address is different. Every time it's an NFT, but at the same time, because when we're selling a city like Chicago or New York, right, there's still already a lot of very similar things, but they're not similar at the same time. But this creates liquidity and will and allows lots of users to come in. I'm sure NBA Top Shot is going in the same kind of direction, right? So that's where that's you have to have when these kind of quasi whatever you call it, I think I even call it network effects, right? That's because like what we've learned from all the social media applications, they all have their network effects. And NFTs also must have their network effects in a certain way. If they're all unique, you cannot really have a network effect, and that's what is important.
Interesting. So what do you think it's going to look like for your company as mass market adoption is achieved?
So I mean, we're clearly also we're about. Coming back to the scaling issue, right? Once we overcome that, right, we also had some issues like all blockchain companies in the beginning, but we also, the gas fees have been mentioned. We don't have gas fees either, right? Because what we've built is no possibility, we cannot charge for a $2 transaction, sure. $5 gas. So we have that as a first thing. And we had, we had, in the beginning we had 30 transactions. Now we had 60 transactions per second when we launched Chicago, so it was high performant. But more importantly is that you actually create the experience for the users also, that because when everyone tries to buy the same thing, there's such a high frustration, right? So you need to set the right expectations, and we also have waiting rooms, and now so where people actually they start to understand, okay, maybe I don't get it, and so on. So that's going to be it's going to be very important. So for us as the company, because we're in the final makings of closing a very large partnership deal. We're also expecting hundreds of millions of people coming into Upland soon. And then this means also, that, that's where I say, when the mass adoption is there, when I see someone playing in the subway, which I have never met.
I look forward to seeing that. Thomas, how about you? So what's the world going to look like for consumers, and what's it going to look like for your company?
Yeah, so I would say, what attracted me to NFTs mostly were direct models. And so an example of being able to do that in a broader sense is when you look at like Western medicine, if everybody was healthy, the system would not be making money, right? So I think that there's a challenge there in how that's kind of structured, where in Eastern medicine, you'll actually have paying when you're healthy and you stop paying when you're sick. And so that's just kind of like a large example of how what is the model kind of ultimately serving and reinforcing. And so with NFTs, I see the ability to engineer incentive structures very specifically. And to bring it more into the context of Yellowheart, we started off as a ticketing company, like solely, in terms of the initial offering, and with the mission of putting rails to tickets around secondary market sales. And so the challenge there was, when you think about the value chain from the artists and the creators to even underwriters, promoters, etc., that are putting on these and taking the initial risk and putting the time into actually create it. You have scalpers that come in and buy up the inventory and then sell it for multiple times, the face value, and that's pure value extraction. And so I see NFTs as allowing us to kind of move from this value extractive economy, the kind of physics of Wall Street, to value creation and the network effects that were mentioned earlier.
Wow, great. I think for Epic's standpoint, I think we see in the future that people are just going to expect to have an NFT for everything they buy that has some kind of value. And that content's going to have, high quality IP, like everything, not just digitally, but for physical goods too. And so as a B2B company, we're going to be there connecting the content providers like brands and celebrities to games, the content consumers, and be the infrastructure for those games. So I want to make sure we leave time for questions. So why don't we just take one of the questions from our audience here. I'm picking this one, kind of a little bit lead back to what Thomas was just saying about the value. This is from David, and he says, most NFT dApps suffer from late adopter syndrome. Example, an Axie costs $150 nowadays. Can you talk about the specific mechanism about how you can actually stop punishing latecomers without frustrating loyal early adopters? Dirk, what do you think?
Well, in our case, it's very simple. We just open up new cities, and there's always a new place someone can actually purchase. Of course, when the Rockefeller Center has now bought by someone, but just the way it is when you deal with scarcity. But the question is how then you define scarcity. Was there will be one day a famous place you can purchase maybe in Paris or London or wherever. So there's enough for people to come in later. In our particular case, I don't see it really as an issue.
Benny, how about you?
Yeah, I think the key answer here is content. And the great thing with, at least for Top Shot, is that we're dealing with live content, right? A player could get injured tomorrow. We don't know. A player could rise above the ranks, or the team could become part of the semifinals of the playoffs. We don't know, right? So that extra element of like, hey, you can come in now. And actually, there's tons of people coming in now because it's playoff season. And, there are things that are really expensive, like a LeBron legendary moment. Those aren't cheap. But we have packs that, we have this whole entire onboarding experience. We're very obsessive. And actually, that's my team's focus, is onboarding. And so we made it really easy. And we have this new thing called starter packs. It's kind of like starter decks that you would get from Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon. And we made sure that those are accessible to new users. And we also have rails in place, a new system that we call Collector Score that I've also worked on, that allows you to kind of gather points based on your collection so that you could be eligible for a hollow icon drop. That is like the epitome of collecting on Top Shot. So I think that when you come late here, I think there's a lot of things you could do. Yes, some of the value has been established, but you never know what the next play for LeBron might look like, and you might be lucky to get it in a pack.
Yeah, I noticed you recently added collector scores. I'm a user and was a little disappointed I wasn't able to participate in the latest drop. I guess I need to boost my collector score. Okay, let's see. How about this one from Chris? Is demanding short-term NFT liquidity taking too narrow a view of their evolving value? Aren't some collectors just there for the experience? Thomas, what do you think?
Yeah, we think about that a lot, and the ways that has kind of came out is more in the experience. So, for instance, like Zoo, he dropped these community tokens that were only available to people that were at the event. QR code there, people would scan it in order to get their NFT, and they were free. And so, it was about the experience. It is about building this community of value, around these tokens. And then the secondary sales of them are split 50-50. So it was kind of an interesting approach to, give away the asset in terms of, building this community, but then also, providing some kind of viability in terms of like long-term kind of revenue from the creator side. From the consumer or the fan side, if you buy a ticket, one of the things that we do is the ticket itself has a face value, but the ticket being an NFT as a piece of art can have more value than than the actual ticket was when you bought it, after the show. So I think that there's kind of like room for both, but we really feel that strongly that making it accessible and even having like different tiers, where it can be, where something always is accessible, and at the same time, other people may prefer something in a more specific way. So trying to kind of create that spectrum.
Yeah, I think for us at Epik, we like to think of NFTs that have both utility and collectability. It's like Pokemon cards, of course. So people collect Pokemon cards just to collect Pokemon cards. They aren't putting a value on it in the future, although I'm sure some people do with certain ones. I guess you could ask Logan Paul what he thinks, since he's a huge Pokemon fan. Yeah, so there's collectability and there's utility, right? So you can just be a collector of the cards and never play the card game, but you can also build up your collection of cards to be a master. It's kind of exactly what we're looking for in terms of NFTs as well. So I think we're very close to the end here. I think we should maybe just wrap it up here. I think the question posed at the beginning of this is essentially have we achieved mass market adoption? And I think the consensus here is that no, we haven't, but we're on the way, and there's a few barriers to getting there. Some of it is around language, usability, and the content that's available. So we need to grow our market by giving more good examples of how NFTs are used, and have people learn a little bit more about them. The adoption needs to grow before we have, the awareness needs to grow before we have adoption. So I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us today, Benny, Dirk, Jiri, and Thomas. It's been a great time talking with you. And for everybody else, good luck, and please enjoy the rest of the conference. So have a great day.
Thank you so much, Darren.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks for having me.